You know that feeling when you just meant to check your phone for a second and suddenly 2 hours have vanished into mindless scrolling? But then, trying to talk yourself into a simple 20-minute study session feels, well, physically painful? Or maybe you know the feeling of trying to resist that late-night junk food, and it just feels like this impossible, unwinnable battle against your own biology. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are completely tearing down the illusion that your struggles with focus, distraction, and discipline are just a lack of willpower. Because the truth is actually much deeper. And honestly, it's a little bit unsettling. See, you are navigating a hyper-engineered modern world, but you're doing it equipped with an ancient brain. A brain that has literally been hijacked. So today, we're going to explore the profound neuroscience behind human desire. We're going to look at why we fiercely crave the things that distract us, and most importantly, how we can re-engineer our own environment to finally take our agency back.
Okay, to really get this, let's travel back to the 1940s. There was a Dutch scientist named Nico Tinbergen, and he was studying herring gulls. Now, adult herring gulls have this little red dot on their beaks, and Tinbergen noticed that newly hatched chicks would instinctively peck at this exact spot whenever they wanted food. It's just hardwired into them. So, to test this instinct, he created a collection of fake cardboard beaks, literally just disembodied painted cardboard heads. When the actual parents flew away, he offered these obvious, clumsy fakes to the chicks. Now, you'd think the baby birds would completely ignore a piece of cardboard, right? I mean, it's cardboard. But they didn't. They pecked at the red dot on the fake beak just as eagerly as they did the real one. And then, Tinbergen pushed it even further. He created a completely ridiculous fake beak with 3 massive red dots. And when the chicks saw this one, they went completely crazy. They were pecking at it frantically, acting as if it was the greatest, most beautiful beak they had ever seen in their short little lives. They entirely ignored reality in favor of an exaggerated fake.
And this beautifully, kind of tragically, illustrates a concept that scientists call a supernormal stimulus. Basically, a supernormal stimulus is just a heightened, exaggerated version of reality, like that cardboard beak with 3 red dots. And the crazy thing is, it elicits a much stronger instinctive response than the normal, natural version ever could. An animal's brain is preloaded with certain rules for survival, right? So when it encounters a wildly exaggerated version of that rule, its reward system just lights up like a Christmas tree. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's a funny story about birds, but what does that have to do with me? Well, humans are just as prone to falling for exaggerated versions of reality. In fact, you are absolutely surrounded by them right now.
Let's just look at the stark contrast between our evolutionary past and our modern environment. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancient ancestors roamed the savanna, right? And in that environment, calorie-dense foods packed with salt, sugar, and fat were incredibly rare. So our brains placed a massive survival value on those nutrients to keep us alive. Find sugar, eat all of it. But today, we live in an engineered environment of absolute abundance. Your brain's reward center literally hasn't changed in 50,000 years, but the food industry sure has. Food scientists spend billions, literally billions of dollars, finding the perfect bliss point. That's the exact mathematical combination of salt, sugar, and fat that maximally excites your brain. They engineer what's called oral sensation, which is how a French fry feels perfectly crispy on the outside but smooth on the inside. They design dynamic contrast, like the crunch of a cookie combined with a creamy center, which keeps the physical experience so incredibly novel that your brain never gets bored of eating it. We are stretching our ancient Paleolithic instincts way, way beyond their evolutionary purpose.
And it's not just junk food. Society today is absolutely filled to the brim with highly engineered versions of reality that are infinitely more attractive than the world our ancestors evolved in. Think about social media for a second. It delivers more social praise and likes in a 5-minute scroll than you could ever naturally receive in a month of working at an office. Or think about advertising. They use ideal lighting, professional makeup, and digital editing so extensively that the actual models don't even look like the final image. Video games are a hyper-concentrated, intensely rewarding form of play. These are our modern supernormal stimuli. They ruthlessly exaggerate features that are naturally attractive to us, driving our ancient instincts completely wild, and trapping us in these endless loops of shopping, scrolling, and eating. So, listen to me. If you struggle with this, it is not a character flaw. It is an evolutionary mismatch.
Let's move into Section 1, the dopamine trap, the real engine of our desires.
To really understand why these supernormal stimuli are nearly impossible to resist and how we can ever hope to focus on hard, boring tasks like studying or building a business, we have to look at the biological signature that every single habit shares, and that is dopamine. The sheer, terrifying power of dopamine became apparent back in 1954, thanks to 2 neuroscientists, James Olds and Peter Milner.
They ran this experiment where they implanted electrodes into the brains of rats, and they essentially blocked the release of dopamine. The results were astounding, and frankly, kind of dark. The rats completely lost the will to live. They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't mate, they completely stopped craving anything at all. Within just a few days, they actually died of thirst. Now, in later studies, scientists tried squirting sugar water directly into the mouths of these dopamine-depleted rats, and their little faces still lit up with pleasure. They still actually liked the sugar, but without dopamine, they didn't want it anymore. The ability to experience pleasure was still there, but without desire, all action just stopped.
This brings us to a massive paradigm shift. Dopamine is not just about pleasure. It is about motivation, learning, and craving. For years, pop psychology told us dopamine was just the joy chemical. But the absolute key takeaway from this explainer is this. Dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but when you anticipate it. It is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that actually gets us to take action. Think about it. This is exactly why daydreaming about an upcoming vacation is often way more enjoyable than actually being on the vacation itself.
Just take a look at this. Notice the timeline here. Before a habit is fully learned, dopamine spikes at the very end, right when the reward is received. But once your brain learns the pattern, look at that second timeline. That massive dopamine spike shifts all the way to the left. It happens immediately after the cue is recognized, long before you take any action. That spike right there, that is the literal biological feeling of a craving. When gambling addicts see a slot machine, their dopamine spikes before they even place a bet. When you see your phone sitting on your desk, your dopamine spikes before you even pick it up. Your biology is physically compelling you to reach for it.
And here is the neurological reality of why breaking bad habits feels so incredibly difficult. Your brain actually has far more neural circuitry allocated for wanting rewards than for actually liking them. The wanting centers in your brain, parts like the brainstem, the amygdala, the nucleus accumbens, they are massive. But by comparison, the liking centers are just these tiny little hedonic hotspots distributed like islands. Researchers actually found that 100% of the nucleus accumbens is activated during wanting, but only 10% is activated during liking. Desire is the literal engine that drives human behavior. We are wired to chase.
So what do we do about this? Let's get into Section 2, Reclaiming Agency and the Architecture of Habits.
Okay, so we know the modern world is heavily engineered to distract us, and we know that desire is what drives action. So instead of relying on raw, exhausting willpower to fight your own biology every single day, you need to hack the system. You have to attach this powerful engine of desire to the hard things you actually need to do. I love this story about an electrical engineering student in Ireland named Ronan Byrne. Ronan knew he needed to exercise more, but like a lot of us, what he really wanted to do was just sit and watch Netflix. So he used his engineering skills to hack his stationary bike and connected it directly to his laptop. He wrote a program that made it so Netflix would only play if he was pedaling at a certain speed. If he slowed down, the screen would pause and it wouldn't start again until he got his heart rate back up. As one fan of his put it, he was eliminating obesity one Netflix binge at a time. It's brilliant.
Ronan was intuitively using a core psychological theory known as Premack's principle. Basically, this principle states that more probable behaviors will reinforce less probable behaviors. Even massive billion-dollar corporations use this on us. Think about the television network ABC. Back in 2014, they launched their Thursday night lineup of Shonda Rhimes shows, branding it TGIT, or Thank God It's Thursday. But notice what they did. They didn't just advertise the shows themselves. The promos heavily featured viewers making popcorn, pouring a big glass of red wine, and relaxing on the couch. ABC systematically associated the thing they needed viewers to do, which is watch their network, with activities viewers already naturally wanted to do, drink wine and relax. They bundled the temptation perfectly.
And the great news is you can apply this exact same strategy to your own life using a really simple formula. Step 1. After a current established habit you already do every day, you insert the habit you need to do. Step 2. Immediately after that habit you need to do, you reward yourself with the habit you want to do. You are essentially taking your natural dopamine-driven cravings and using them as the bait to pull yourself through the difficult, high-friction tasks like studying, working out, or building discipline.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in reality. Say you constantly want to check Facebook or Instagram, but you really need to exercise more. Your formula becomes, after I pull out my phone, I will do 10 burpees. That's the hard habit you need. After I do 10 burpees, I will check Facebook. That's the habit you want. Or maybe you're trying to grow a business, but you just want to read sports news all day. After I get back from my lunch break, I will call 3 potential clients. After I call 3 clients, I will check ESPN.
By doing this over time, your brain actually begins to physically associate the hard, necessary task with the massive dopamine spike of the anticipated reward. Work becomes the trigger for pleasure.
We started this explainer by recognizing a harsh truth. Society has created highly engineered supernormal versions of reality that artificially spike our desire to take action. You are navigating a modern world equipped with an ancient mind. So, seriously, if you've been struggling with distraction, let go of the guilt right now. It is not a moral failing, it is simply a mismatch of biology and environment. But, now that you understand the mechanics of the dopamine-driven feedback loop, you possess the profound, practical power to engineer your own reality. By intentionally pairing the supernormal stimuli you naturally crave with the difficult, unsexy habits that actually build your future, you make success irresistible. Your brain's engine of desire is constantly running, and it's not going to stop. The only question is, what will you architect yourself to crave next?